Oh, hello everyone. Welcome to the Econobox garage. Come on in. Well, there's the right side floor piece put in. The pieces on the tunnel are just sitting there. They haven't been glued down yet. It just gives you an overall look. So I'm quite happy with how this has turned out. And so now I've got that one done. I'm going to go do the other side. And then I'll get that done. At least the rear tunnel piece I'll glue on. Just still trying to figure out how best to do the piece that goes over the shifter tower, because there's a couple of things I have to keep in mind, but I'll get to that a little bit later. And then once I've got the floor pieces in and this one in, then I can go about getting the holes cut for the seatbelt bolts and for the seat brackets. Okay, now that all the carpet is in, I'm just about ready to put the panels that I recovered into the car. But before I do that, I'm going to get the holes cut for the seatbelt bolts and get those back in. Now, one of the challenges with carpet is how do you cut a hole? So what I'm going to use is a method I learned in another YouTube video. It's basically using a hot socket. Use an old one that's a little bit bigger than the size of the bolt you need. And what that does is it melts a hole, theoretically, melts a hole in the carpet exactly where you need it. And I'll show you how I'm going to locate that in a minute here. And it basically seals up the edges. Now if you try and drill through carpet, it's catching a thread and just ripping the carpet and bunching up the underlay and all that. So this method seems to be very good. So I'm going to go over to the bench and do a trial run on a piece of scrap carpet and see how that works. And then we'll come over to the car and show you how it's done here. Okay, so what I have here is I have a scrap of carpet and I have an old 3/8 socket, which is just about the right size for that bolt. So this is the seatbelt bolt here, and that's just a little bit bigger, so that'll give me a nice size hole in the floor or in the carpet. So I'm just going to fire up my torch here. And then I'm going to work on getting this socket. Actually, you know what? I'm going to go get a longer extension. Okay, just got a longer extension. Let's get the torch fired up again. So I'm just going to heat this up. So this is the first time I've tried this. I'll put a link to the video that showed me how to do this in the description below. So I'm just going to warm this up. I'm going to have to try a couple of times just to see how warm I do have to get it. So let's give that a try. There we go. Don't have to get it that warm at all. So you see I just push that into the carpet and it makes a nice clean hole and it seals up the edges, and my seatbelt bolt goes right through with no issues at all. So now the trick is to locate the hole. It's a bit warm. Is how to locate the hole in the car. Okay, to get started on this, I'm going to start and I'm going to locate the hole that goes in this corner, and I'm going to poke an awl up from underneath the car and as close to the center of that hole as possible. So I'll get that done. Well, it might be a little difficult to see, but the awl has come through. So what I'm going to do now is just take a nail, and where that awl is, I'm just going to push that nail through that hole that I already made. So that nail is very close to the center of the hole. Now what I'm going to do is heat up that socket again. Alright, I think I have that hot enough now. So what I'm going to do is put the socket over the head of the nail and just push straight down. And wiggle it a bit. And when I pull it out, now if I've done everything right, my seatbelt bolt should slip right through there. So we'll get this off here. And right through there and right through the hole. So there we go. So I'll put all the washers and everything on underneath, and I'll repeat that process for the other 3 bolts. So there you can see a nice clean hole in the carpet, and then the edges of that hole are all sealed so it's not going to fray. And then I can just put my seatbelt bolt through that, and we're good to go. Okay, now that I have all the seatbelt bolts in, there's the 2 on the left-hand side, and you can see the one on the far side over there. I'm going to start putting the panels in. Now I've already put the ones around the transmission tunnel, and I've also put the one that goes down the side of the footwell on the driver's side. I'm just going to show you how I get this set up. Now this is this panel here is the one that goes across the bottom of the door. But what I'm going to do, so I know where to put the screws, is I'm going to poke a hole with the awl from the back side. And you can see there's a hole here. I'm using this hole here. That hole, there's not a hole, that's just a mark. Use that hole there, that hole, and that one. So I'll just poke through with the awl, and then I'll get the screw with a finish washer and just poke it through from the other side, from the front face. The material itself will hold the screw and washer in place, and I know they're in the right spot, so I should be able to line up the holes in the side of the car on the sill here and tighten them up, and we're done on that one. So here you can see I've got the screw through with the finish washer, and I've got them all. There's the one there, one there, and then there's 3 more on this piece. So theoretically I should be able to flip this on there, and the screws will line up with all the holes, and there is a bit of wiggle room here, so we'll get those in place. Because the panel that comes down the B pillar doesn't quite go and meet the top of the one that goes across the sill, I just made up a couple of little basically patches out of the vinyl material that will show in the gap between the 2 panels. So just a nice, I think just a nice little way to finish that off. Now before I can put this panel on here for the B pillar, I need to run the draft excluder all the way around the opening, because it goes in, down, it comes up here and then in behind the panel that goes in here. I'll show you the end. So I've already trimmed this one a little bit, but there's basically a channel here, it's really hard to see, oh there you go, that clips over this edge here, but in order to make sure it stays on there, there are these little clips. So I already have one of those up over here, and so I'm going to distribute the remaining 9 around the opening, and I'm going to put a couple up at the top here, because this gets a lot of wear with getting in and out of the car. Well, I have the cockpit trim back on, and this hasn't been fully restored or anything. It's just been cleaned up as best as possible. So I'm not worried about it being perfect. There's some pitting and that across here. And then I just realized there's a couple of other things that I need to install. I need to install the, I believe there's a 10X fitting that needs to go in here before I do the B-pillar trim. So with that in mind, I'm just going to say that that's it for this episode. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to share it with your friends. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and don't forget that little bell icon. Click on that and you'll get notified when the next video comes out. If you'd like to get a hold of me directly, you can do so at the email address. I'll put it at the bottom of the screen, and it'll also be in the description below. Thanks for joining me. My name is Ian. This is the Econobox Garage. We'll see you next time.